Welcome back to Important Updates, global news without the noise. Subscribe to stay updated. Why are there not more people talking about the daily struggle at Scarborough Shoal? The sun rises over Scarborough Shoal, known to Filipino fishermen as panatag, a lifeline for generations. For decades, these waters have provided not just fish, but hope and sustenance for entire coastal communities. The gentle glow of dawn usually signals a new day of hard work and promise. But today, tension hangs in the air, thick and unmistakable. The usual sounds of laughter and chatter are replaced by hushed voices and worried glances. Every fisherman senses that something is different. Something is wrong. A small wooden boat, Bantay Dagat, faces off against a massive Chinese Coast Guard ship blocking the lagoon. The Filipino crew, dwarfed by the imposing vessel, can only watch as their path to the rich fishing grounds is cut off. The size difference is stark, a floating fortress against humble fishermen. The steel hull of the Chinese ship towers over the wooden boat, a symbol of power and intimidation. Mang Jun, the Filipino captain, radios warnings to nearby boats as the Chinese vessel maneuvers menacingly, its wake threatening to swamp them. His voice trembles with urgency, urging his fellow fishermen to keep their distance and stay alert. The fishermen know they're within their country's exclusive economic zone, but that knowledge feels fragile against the steel hull before them. International law is on their side, but the reality at sea is far more complicated and dangerous. No shots are fired, but the aggression is clear. The Chinese ship's movements are calculated, designed to intimidate and assert dominance without crossing the line into open conflict. The fishermen, armed only with nets and courage, can do little but watch. Their hands grip their nets tightly, but their eyes never leave the looming vessel, uncertain of what might happen next. They are not soldiers, just men trying to feed their families now caught in a geopolitical struggle. Their daily routine has become a dangerous gamble, with livelihoods and safety hanging in the balance. The simple act of fishing has become an act of defiance. Each cast of the net is a quiet protest, a refusal to surrender their rights and heritage. This scene, repeated countless times, captures the heart of the Philippines' dilemma. Real people's lives upended by territorial disputes. The struggle here is not just about borders, but about survival, dignity, and the right to live in peace. The fishermen of Panatag Shoal never asked to be part of this grand game. They simply want to work, to provide, to return home safely at the end of the day. But their quiet mourning is shattered, leaving them feeling powerless, a feeling that will soon ripple across the nation. As they head back to shore, the weight of uncertainty lingers, a reminder that their struggle is far from over. For decades, the Philippines has performed a delicate balancing act, carefully navigating its foreign policy between two global giants, the United States and China. This balancing act has shaped the nation's diplomatic identity and influenced its place in the region. China, as a vital trading partner and close neighbor, offered economic opportunities and investment. Meanwhile, the United States remained a long-standing security ally, providing military support and a sense of protection in uncertain times. Manila's hope was that friendly engagement and robust economic cooperation with both powers would keep territorial disputes and tensions manageable, allowing the country to prosper. The strategy was clear: benefit from China's economic rise and investments, but avoid being overwhelmed or dominated by its influence. The Philippines maintained its historic alliance with the U.S., even as it sought warmer ties with Beijing, believing it could befriend both and extract advantages from each relationship. This pragmatic approach was designed to sidestep great power rivalry, focusing instead on economic development, job creation, and national progress. Successive administrations voiced concerns over maritime disputes and sovereignty, but these were mostly discussed behind closed doors, away from the public eye. Open confrontation was seen as risky, potentially leading to economic retaliation, diplomatic fallout, or even military escalation, all of which could threaten the nation's stability. The national priority remained clear: growth, stability, and the well-being of ordinary Filipinos, rather than being drawn into foreign policy crises. Leaders were well aware of China's expansive claims in the South China Sea, but they hoped that ongoing dialogue and negotiation would preserve peace and prevent conflict. The ultimate goal was to de-escalate tensions, keep communication channels open, and find a way to coexist despite deep disagreements over territory and sovereignty. This preference for neutrality dialogue, and careful diplomacy was the starting point for the Philippines' foreign policy journey. But as regional events unfolded and external pressures mounted, this careful balance would be tested like never before, forcing the Philippines to confront difficult choices on the world stage. At the heart of the dispute is China's infamous 9-line, a sweeping claim over nearly the entire South China Sea. This line cuts deep into the Philippines' maritime territory, overlapping with its exclusive economic zone and threatening its access to vital resources. China's claim isn't based on international law, but on vague historic rights, unrecognized by UNCLOS. For the Philippines, this isn't just legal theory. It's a direct threat to sovereignty and economic future. Regional diplomacy through ASEAN moved slowly, while China preferred bilateral talks and grew more assertive on the water. Chinese vessels began patrolling and challenging other nations' activities within their own EEZs. Filipino fishermen were chased away, survey ships blocked, and law enforcement challenged. The 9-line was no longer just a mark on a map, it was a hard physical barrier. The dispute between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea has escalated dramatically, marked by a series of increasingly aggressive incidents initiated by China. What began as tense standoffs has now evolved into a pattern of open confrontation at sea, with each encounter raising the stakes. Chinese Coast Guard vessels have repeatedly used water cannons against Philippine ships, especially near the contested Ayungin and Panatag shoals. These water cannon attacks are not isolated events. They are part of a broader strategy to assert dominance and deter Philippine presence in these disputed waters. These dangerous tactics, designed to intimidate and harass without crossing the threshold into outright war, put Filipino crews in immediate physical danger. The relentless pressure at sea leaves sailors constantly on edge, never knowing when the next incident might occur. China's so-called gray zone aggression, actions that fall short of open conflict, allows it to assert control while maintaining plausible deniability. These ambiguous tactics blur the line between peace and war, making it difficult for the Philippines to respond decisively. For those on the receiving end, the experience is terrifying. Each encounter sends a clear message of dominance and power, leaving Filipino sailors feeling vulnerable and exposed in their own waters. In 2023, the situation escalated further when a Chinese ship targeted a Philippine vessel with a military-grade laser, temporarily blinding crew members. This use of high-tech weaponry marked a new and dangerous phase in the standoff. The laser attack was not just a show of force. It demonstrated a willingness to inflict real harm, signaling that China was prepared to take even more drastic measures if challenged. Incidents like blocking maneuvers, swarming of Chinese vessels, and even suspected sabotage of Philippine boats have revealed a campaign of systematic coercion. These actions are carefully calculated to wear down resistance and assert control over the disputed areas. The Philippines now faces not just a simple territorial disagreement, but a sustained campaign of intimidation and psychological warfare at sea, with each incident escalating tensions further. As these aggressive actions continue, quiet diplomacy and back-channel negotiations have become increasingly untenable, with trust between the two nations eroding rapidly. The pattern is unmistakable. China is using its growing maritime might to impose its will, reshape the balance of power in the South China Sea, and send a message to the world that it will not back down. At the center of the standoff is the BRP Sierra Madre, a rusting WW-era ship grounded on a Ayungin shoal. Filipino Marines live aboard, enduring harsh conditions to maintain a Philippine presence. The ship is a flashpoint. China wants it gone, so it blocks and harasses every resupply mission. For Filipinos, the Sierra Madre is a symbol of sovereignty and defiance. Each resupply run is a national drama, watched by millions. China's attempts to starve out the Marines have only hardened Philippine resolve. The rusting hulk has become a potent symbol of national pride and resistance. As images of Chinese aggression flooded Filipino media, public opinion shifted dramatically. The issue became personal, no longer just for diplomats, but for every Filipino. Journalists, civil society, and ordinary citizens demanded a stronger government response. The hashtag Jai Atin Ang West Philippine Sea united the nation in defense of its sovereignty. Stories of fishermen and Marines fueled patriotic sentiment and outrage. The government, once focused on appeasement, faced mounting pressure to act. Quiet diplomacy was now seen as weakness, even betrayal. The public's demand was clear: defend the nation's territory and people. This groundswell forced leaders to reconsider their approach to China. Relentless pressure at sea and public anger at home forced the Philippine government to a crossroads. The old strategy of balancing between the US and China was failing. Neutrality only works if both sides respect it. China's actions left the Philippines with no real choice. The government shifted to a transparency strategy, documenting and publicizing Chinese aggression. Journalists were embedded on patrols, and incidents were broadcast worldwide. This was a new way to fight back. Not with weapons, but with information. The pivot was an admission. Quiet diplomacy had failed. The Philippines had offered friendship, but was met with force. The country didn't walk away from neutrality. It was pushed. Turning the other cheek was no longer an option. Pushed by China, the Philippines sought support from allies old and new. The US-Philippine Mutual Defense Treaty was revitalized, with expanded American access to bases and joint patrols in the West Philippine Sea. Military exercises grew in size and scope, signaling a credible deterrent. Manila also built ties with Japan, Australia, and other regional partners, negotiating new agreements and deepening cooperation. The Philippines reached out to Europe, Canada, and India, urging support for a rules-based order. This diplomatic surge aimed to internationalize the issue and deter further aggression. The message: the West Philippine Sea is not just a Philippine concern, but a global one. By building a coalition, Manila hoped to make the cost of aggression too high for Beijing. Sometimes, nations are forced down a path not of their choosing. The Philippines did not seek confrontation. It pursued dialogue and neutrality for years, but China's relentless campaign of intimidation left no room for compromise. Harassment of fishermen, water cannons, lasers, and pressure on the Sierra Madre made the situation impossible. The government realized its old policy had failed. To continue would mean surrendering its maritime domain. Public outrage demanded action. The pivot to a more assertive defense and stronger US alliance was not a preference, but a necessity. The Philippines was pushed to draw a line in the water, to defend its sovereignty or lose it. This is a lesson for the world. Unchecked aggression can force even the most reluctant nations to stand up. Sometimes, the hardest choices are made for you.